Welcome to an Exile. Kari Lake experienced a small win. I'll explain it. But first, here's Kari Lake on Real America's Voice.
It's good to be on. Well, we have the date set for our trial. It'll be Wednesday through Friday. We're just waiting patiently for the judge to give us the thumbs up.
And the judge did give them the thumbs up. That's the good news. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where you want to go for all the Kari Lake news. Just in, Maricopa County judge confirms Kari Lake is going back to trial May 17th, 18th, and 19th. So that's the conclusion. I just gave you the end. Now I'm going to tell you why that's significant. Here's Kari Lake's Twitter. Share this huge, all caps, following Supreme Court ruling, Maricopa County judge grants Kari Lake the opportunity to expose election fraud in court. Here's a headline from the Gateway Pundit. Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Peter Thompson reaffirmed a previous minute entry setting trial dates for Kari Lake's trial on the remanded fraudulent signature verification claims in her lawsuit against the 2022 election. That's the long version of saying it. Here's more Kari Lake.
And of course, we're going to be working on the signature verification aspect as well, which the Arizona Supreme Court told this judge he needs to take a second look at.
So that's what they're looking at, is some of the signature verification. It's both good news and bad news. It's very weird news, I'll tell you that much, but let's dig into this. Lake must prove a competent mathematical basis to win at trial, but she need not plead a specific number of votes in her complaint under notice pleading, states the minute entry. And I have the actual legal document minute entry at the end of this. Lake must also demonstrate at trial, pursuant to her concessions, that Maricopa County's higher level signature reviewers conducted no signature verification or a curing, and in so doing had systematically failed at materially complying with the law. This is weird. This is Judge Thompson in the legal document said she has to prove that there was no signature verification, which is weird. She's not even claiming that at all. Data Guru with the bad news, he goes, wow, Kari Lake's attorneys must prove no signature verification was done by Maricopa vote at higher level. Then he says that this is a catastrophically high bar if you haven't guessed. There's Josh Barnett below that. It's pretty obvious this judge is corrupt. So he's accusing the judge, Thompson, of having such a ridiculously high bar that he intended for this thing to get passed on to someone else. It is set deliberately high by Judge Thompson so that this will fail in court. Okay, so let's move on to the actual legal mumbo jumbo. As the Gateway Pundit reported, the Maricopa County attorney Tim LaRue so he's the bad guy, admitted Friday that signature verification is subjective and something of an art, that it was open to the interpretation of whatever activist reviews the signature. It is not really an exact science, stated LaRue. Here's LaRue in court saying that it is subjective. This is Katie Hobbs and Maricopa's defense team.
That's a very subjective process. Two people might look at a signature and one might say, I think that's consistent, and another might say, no, that's inconsistent. And there's no line rule in the law that says when a signature is or is not consistent.
And that's a huge problem with having election results determined within the bracket of signatures that are adjudicated, because suddenly, and he's saying there's no standard for what makes a signature too far. There's no legal standard. It's subjective, he says, but it's worse. He actually says it's something of an art. Here's the quote in court.
This is something of an art in election verification work.
And he is saying that it is essentially subjective and an art form. Okay, so here's the legal document that this is Superior Court of Arizona, Maricopa County, Honorable Peter Thompson in Kari Lake versus Katie Hobbs. So what was just decided, and what was the big deal with Kari Lake, where she says she wants you to spread the word. So guys, take this link and spread it out to this show, to all your friends. Leave a comment so it multiplies this out to a larger audience. Under advisement, this is the ruling. The court has considered the filings of the parties. Katie Hobbs, renewed motion to dismiss. These are all the lines of, she just said, I want a motion to dismiss on this. Motion to dismiss. Secretary of State Adrian Fontes supplemental memorandum. I want to support the motion to dismiss along with associated response and replies. And the court has also considered plaintiff Kari Lake's motion for relief from judgment, which she didn't get. Along with the associated response and reply, the court has considered the arguments of the parties on this hearing on May 12th. Let's move on. So that's just what this thing was about. Those are the subject. Here's the background. So this is like, in summary, this is what has happened up until now. The case was returned on remand from the Arizona Supreme Court. The court's dismissal of counts 1, 2, and 4, and 10 were affirmed, and this court's dismissal of count 3 on the ground of laches was vacated and remanded. The mandate of the Arizona Supreme Court, as relevant here, states can prove petitioner Kari Lake can prove her claim as alleged pursuant to ARS and establish that votes were affected in sufficient numbers. So this is essentially saying, can Kari Lake prove that, quote, votes were affected in sufficient numbers to alter the outcome of the election based on a competent mathematical basis to conclude that the outcome would plausibly have been different, not simply an untethered assertion of uncertainty. So what they're saying is, Kari Lake, you got to prove it in court. Come and get it. So she still has to prove this in court. And so I don't have an opinion on this. I'll wait and see what happens on these dates that they gave her day in court. Lake now clarifies for the first time that under the widest possible reading of count 3, she's contending that election officials failed to comply with the EPM and not performing any steps to comply with level 2 or 3 screening or notification. Level 1 screeners found signatures were inconsistent. So now he's using the Annie, saying like, you have to prove that they didn't do any signature verification, which Kari Lake is not claiming that. So this is where this is all kind of bogus. And then here's what is ordered. And this is the only part that really matters of this whole order. Therefore, it is ordered reaffirming the trial date set forth in this court's May 8th, 2023, minute entry, setting the matter for trial on count 3, signature verification. She gets her day in court. Katie Hobbs and Maricopa's request that this be dismissed, all those failed, and she gets her day in court for this tiny, minute section 3 signature verification is all that's left. And she has to prove this ridiculous high standard. Here's, I believe it's Tracy Beans. It's ridiculous. And this will just end up in the appellate court yet again, because the judge doesn't seem strong enough to hear a case on the actual merits of the complaint. And in my opinion, seems to be engineering things appealable on purpose so he doesn't have to deal with it. That's the accusation against Judge Thompson. In conclusion, here's Kari Lake saying we got to embrace mail-in ballots. We're against it, but this is the future.
Well, yeah, as long as we have election month, which is what we have here in Arizona, we vote for practically a month and then they count for 2 weeks. We need to play in that terrible system. And I've always said, vote whatever way makes you comfortable. If you want to vote early, but just make sure to get the ballot in.
Let's remain open to what this judge will determine, but I think it's a near conclusion that it's going to fail, and she is going to run for the Senate. I'm Doug in Exile. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.